G'day and welcome to the Law and Order podcast, a show about why games matter and how they shape our lives. I'm James Padley, and as always, I'm joined with my very good friend and co-host, Amrit Aldridge. How's your week been, mate?
James, it's been excellent. I'm feeling really good, and I think I'm feeling so good because I've spent a lot of time in the sun this week. It's been an uncharacteristically sunny week in Melbourne, and it just got me thinking, sunshine? Really good, really underrated. Yeah, I know we speak a lot about games and indoor stuff, but don't forget sunshine makes you feel real good too.
During the winter, sunshine is a very deep sought commodity.
Oh,
so
very, very good. So
I
yeah,
feel you.
That's been nice. It's always a nice link when sort of it's like a hardware thing, like you do something physical and that's good for your software, like mentally you feel good. It's like a nice reminder of that.
Nice, man. I was thinking this week as well, obviously we're getting everything prepped in the house for the baby to arrive. And so we're purchasing all these different things, and it's got me thinking a lot about value for money. And considering we're a gaming podcast, I'll keep it on brand.
Well,
but
the sun is the best value for money.
the sun is,
Cost
that's
me
it.
nothing.
It's free. We love free. I was wondering, what is the best value for money game you have ever gotten?
Oh, that is a good question. I think it is Lord of the Rings: The Third Age on PlayStation 2. Costs $89.99 at EB Games, brand new. But my brother and I remember we traded in 3 games for it. Big discussion about what we traded in.
Yeah.
Then we still had $20 left over when we bought the game, and we got the official game guide. And why I think such good value for money, we played it so many times. We played together so many times. We came back to it a while ago and played it together.
Yeah, quite recently.
Yeah, which was so much fun, and pulled out the tattered old game guide, still got it. I mean, talk about nostalgia, beautiful shared memory. So the amount I think that has come out of that game, both in terms of time, value for money, how much time we spent on it, but also that just beautiful emotional connection. So good. Peak. I would pay 5 times as much if I knew how much that was going to give me. You know?
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah. What about yourself?
I'm not sure about a game from my own collection. I'd have to really sit and think about it. But what kind of prompted this question for me, or this idea? I was having a group meeting at work.
Yep.
And one of the guys I work with, he's got teenage kids, and he was talking about this game that they're currently obsessed with called Mecha Chameleon.
Mecha Chameleon?
Yeah, it's on Steam.
Yep.
It's $8.
Okay, you got me interested now. Yeah.
So it's only $8. And he even said, it's like this $8 game, and they're obsessed with it.
Yeah.
And it's all they've been playing for weeks. And you play as these kind of stick figure people. They kind of look like when you go to the toilet and you see the man and woman symbols on the toilet. And so they're blank white canvas people.
Yep.
And it's a game of hide and seek. So you're in teams. So you play with mates. One team are the hiders, one team are the seekers.
Yep.
And instead of just hiding, you get this whole paint palette up, and you have to paint yourself into the background to make it harder for people to find you.
Fun.
So I'm sure I would suck at it as someone who's colorblind. I would be significant disadvantage.
You can't see me. I'm a tree. You're bright yellow.
Yeah. The worst. I still remember when I was a little kid, like I was in some daycare thing and I painted a whale purple, and some kid was like, "Whales aren't purple."
Oh, screw you, man. Whales can be whatever color you want in daycare.
Thanks, Amber. I appreciate that.
Good thing I wasn't there. I would have been overly aggressive towards this small child. Probably not good daycare teacher. But like, you're a disgrace.
I appreciate the support.
Well, I would have had your back, and that's what matters.
Thanks, mate. But yeah, this game apparently it's blowing up. It's huge. And then we caught up with some mates yesterday, and one of them brought it up and was like, it would be really fun to play.
Yeah.
And it's like, for $8, these kids are obviously getting hours upon hours upon hours of entertainment.
Yeah.
That's incredible value for money. Even for me, if I got to play online with a bunch of mates that I don't really get to see as often as I would like anymore, for $8, man, that's awesome.
That's so cool, because I think so much of the time when we're thinking about games, the current dialogue that you often hear is like, oh, like this game is so expensive. Like, oh, games are so expensive. How can I afford that? So it's cool to get an example like that, where you think it's the opposite. It's, oh, that's really cheap. That's good value. Because we were talking recently about how when we saw the price of First Light, and you thought, oh, that's steep.
That's a marketplace game for me, if I'm being honest. Like, I really want to play the new 007, but it's $110, I think, at JB at the moment. Maybe more if you go to like EB. They usually have things up a little more to try and encourage you to like swap games in, like you said before with the Third Age. For me, it's just, I really love the Uncharted games.
Yep.
But I thought the Hitman games were okay. And it's developed by the Hitman team, but I think it's a real kind of mixture of those two games in terms of gameplay.
Yeah.
So I'm either going to love it or I'm going to be like, this is fine.
Yeah.
And so for me, buying it for like $70 or $80 on Marketplace, that for me is a lot more value for money.
Yeah.
If I don't sink hours upon hours or want to replay it or anything like that.
Yeah, it's cool. It's like that's almost like the price difference of your tactical gamble in a way.
Yes.
Where it's like 70 to 80 is worth the gamble.
The barrier of entry for this is higher for me.
Yes.
Whereas a game like Mecha Chameleon, again, indie developers, $8 game, barrier of entry is so low.
Yes.
The amount of hours that you get out of that, if you played it for an hour, I'm like, ugh, this sucks.
Yep.
It was only $8.
Yeah.
You know, whereas if you buy a game for $110 and you only play it for 5 hours before you go, this is just not hitting for me.
Yeah.
That's a big sunk cost.
Yes. Yep. It's so interesting because when it comes to this idea of value and gaming, I often think that as a gaming community, we go too far towards, gaming's getting way more expensive or it's so much more expensive than it used to be. You know, how can we afford it? But to flip it, I really think there's not many things that are more valuable or that there aren't many more things that are better value, than gaming.
Well, in terms of the prices, like you literally referenced a PS2 game, The Third Age, and you said that came out for $89.95.
Yeah.
In terms of video game inflation, there really hasn't been that much significant change. Like if you look at a movie ticket,
yes,
like if you want to go and see The Odyssey, that's what's out at the moment, that everyone's talking about.
Yeah, I'm actually thinking of going to it. Yeah.
I know that it was filmed in IMAX and everyone suggests it's going in IMAX. That's even more expensive.
Yep.
But if you just went down to the local cinema, you're probably going to be spending at least $20 a ticket.
Yeah.
Minimum, I would say.
Yeah.
That's significantly more than what we used to pay a decade, 2 decades ago to go to the movies.
That's it as well. And you think as well, on top of that, it's like, well, you're paying $20, but it's, 3 hours worth of entertainment.
Yeah.
Whereas, you're saying, with Mecha Chameleon, you got these kids who are getting hours and hours and hours and hours for $8.
Yeah.
And it got me thinking about, well, gaming is a hobby and it's a form of entertainment. And it sort of got me thinking about, well, we think gaming's so expensive. What about all these other forms of entertainment or hobbies that we spend money on? Like recently, I did an escape room with 3 friends. $275 it was.
For everyone in total?
Yeah, total. So 70 each.
Yeah.
Right? For an hour.
$70 for an hour is a lot. Like escape rooms are awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. And that's the thing. I loved it. Super fun. But it's sort of funny that I kind of didn't really blink at paying that for the escape room, whereas I might see a game that's say twice that amount, but I'm going to get so many more hours out of it.
Yeah.
And then also an escape room is hard work. I had to find friends to do it with me. Games, I can just buy that and play it on my own.
Yeah. Yeah. Poor Amrit.
That's it. Even something like Stray, which, I played recently, which was, really cheap. A smaller game, didn't last as long as about 10 hours, but still like $30, I think it cost. And that is objectively very, very cheap in terms of cost per hour.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is really interesting. But do you think when that game launched, I think it was probably more around $50. Do you think you still would have gotten your value for money for that $50?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, if I look at it, end of the day, definitely great value.
Because I think a lot of patient gamers, they really get their value for money because they wait so long and they get everything on steep discounts. And that's where they're like, oh my gosh, this game was incredible.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really interesting because there are some games that are shorter that paying a decent amount for, you're like, the experience itself was worth that cost to me.
Yes.
You got to spend time with your partner playing a game that was really good. Other people might spend a lot on a game that's a lot shorter, but it has a really moving story and it impacts them in a way that's like, wow, this completely changed my worldview on XYZ.
Yeah.
That's something that you can't really put a price tag on at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. And that is what's so interesting, is that I'm sitting here saying, games are incredible value, and we're going to talk about so much about the value of gaming, but there's so many other facets to it other than just the money side. And now it's starting to come with a bit of a catch with the way that the gaming industry is going.
Yeah, shifting towards digital only. Obviously, over the past few episodes, we've talked about how GTA is only going to be digital, and then PlayStation games as of 2028 aren't going to be physical discs anymore. So, yeah, we're heading into this age where it's almost like we're talking about value for money, but then there comes this new element or layer of like, do you even own the games that you're paying for anymore?
That's it.
And so does that then mean that our definition of value needs to change?
Yeah, exactly. Well, when you think back to my first example about the third age, that is so much of that is tied up in the ownership of the game itself and having the physical copy and the book and everything about that. So that itself is interesting because if that wasn't an option or if I was buying that now and trying to recreate that same experience, would the definition of the value shift? Absolutely it would. So it's different. So I think it's such an interesting topic to talk about the value of gaming. One, when you really break it down and think, well, it is such good value, but then two, that is shifting now. And you, as a consumer and you pursuing your hobby, you had to really think, well, what does the value mean to me? What's my definition? And, what is too expensive and what do I do as things begin to change?
Yeah. Well, speaking of things being too expensive, let's, I guess, look at the kind of idea of have games become more expensive?
Yes.
Because as you said, you hear the line, oh, games are getting so much more expensive. Have you seen the new game prices? Like, that's just crazy.
Yeah.
And I think that's obviously been exacerbated by the release of GTA 6.
Yes.
The fact that the standard edition is $130 and the premium ultimate whatever edition
$159 or $160.
Yeah, which to me, paying for a premium edition of something that's not physical, that to me is a bit crazy.
Yep.
It's like digital, if you want to charge $130, that still seems like a lot to me.
Yep.
But charging for a digital ultimate is I don't know. That to me, I think it's a little bit crazy.
Yes.
But with that being said, if you walk into JB, as we said, First Light selling for $110, a lot of games are a similar price.
Yes.
My big fear is that GTA is going to set a precedent that all new games that are AAA will launch at $130.
Yeah, that's always a way when something comes out and you think it's going to bump it up, right? And
because GTA as well, like it is going to be the biggest video game release ever.
Yep.
So people are looking, or companies and shareholders, etc., are looking at them to see what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Because they really ultimately get to set the precedent.
Yeah.
So that's my only concern.
Yeah.
But I think as gamers, we do make an assumption that games have increased dramatically when in reality they haven't too much when you look at the history of game pricing.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that whenever someone says, oh, games are so expensive these days, this is almost the segment that's been building up within me to say, you know what? It's actually not. And that's right, folks. Cue music. It's another What Have We Learned from History?
Hey, it's back. It's made its return.
No, it'll be very quick. But we always think games have got a lot more expensive, but have they?
Take us back.
Yeah, the answer is really, they haven't. So you think when the NES launched in the late 1980s, you'd think, oh, okay, it's probably pretty cheap. Cartridges were around $60 to $80.
Yeah.
So we're talking in Australian dollars here, obviously.
Yeah.
PS1 and Nintendo 64 games, usually around $80 to $100.
Yeah, I still remember them being around that price.
So that is already not that much more expensive. You think of a recent Expedition 33 when it came out, I think that was $80.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So you think about that, it's like, well, they haven't got that more expensive, and we haven't even factored in inflation. So really fun fact for you here, Super Mario cartridge, Super Mario 64, the cartridge when that came out in 1997, that cost $100. So if you factor in inflation, that would be $215 today.
Yeah, which is insane.
So if you look at it that way, games actually have gotten cheaper in a weird way, in some sense. So it's so interesting. And like there's a really cool kind of research association that I often read some articles from called the Entertainment Software Association in the States. And they do kind of like really good sort of deep dives and kind of look at, different pricing histories over the years and different trends in the gaming market. And they have been saying for ages that game prices have just stayed remarkably flat.
Yeah, which is amazing.
Over the decades.
I guess the core difference now is these gaming developers and companies have different ways of extracting money from us.
Exactly.
So the games are still launching at a similar price, but then you've got DLC that you're going to pay for, season passes, microtransactions, deluxe, premium, whatever editions.
Yes.
All of those things will then make that game cost more.
Yes.
Like the most recent Pokemon games, I think they released expansions that cost at least 30 Australian.
Yeah.
Which, when the game launches at $100, it bumps it straight up to 130 at the end of the day.
Exactly. And also when you're considering, when you're buying games, let's say you're buying Super Mario 64 or I'm buying Lord of the Rings The Third Age, when you buy that game, that's it. It's the finished, complete, final artifact, no updates, no changes, no add-ons, no patches, nothing like that. Whereas now you're paying, these high prices or these same high prices that we've always paid, but games could be a bit of a buggy mess and they need a bunch of different updates. And so it's not necessarily the finished article. So there is a little bit of a difference.
Yeah, that's where it's it for me. If I'm spending that kind of money, like GTA 6 money on a game's launch, it better be a stellar experience.
Yes.
I do not want to spend that money for a buggy mess, like you said, because we grew up in a time where you got the Nintendo 64 game or the PS1 game, and that was it.
That's it. Yeah.
So, I don't know. Maybe games aren't more expensive at launch, but developers are definitely getting a little bit more creative with their monetization.
For sure. And I guess in a way they almost have to. If these game prices are staying flat, they've got to think, well, okay, how do we're spending more time or costs are growing or development teams are growing or games are getting more expansive. You can kind of see it. It's just always a bit, it's that balance of, well, okay, this is what we're happy to take versus what are they trying to hide, beneath the layers,
100%. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, when we talk about games being so expensive, we really are still getting a great value for money for the amount of time spent.
Yes. Yep. And that's the hill that I think I will die on when it comes to the value of games is I really, truly don't think people spend enough time considering hours versus money spent. That cost per hour spent in their kind of equation of what value is.
Yeah.
So, for example, if I was to break down the Third Age, I would have played, $90 thing. There would have been well over 100 hours.
Yep.
So I'm talking about less than $1 per hour of entertainment, which is incredible. When I think about, spending, $70 an hour for an escape room or, a $20 movie ticket is, $5 an hour if it's a 4-hour film. Not many 4-hour films, so it's more like $10 an hour. So that I think is so cool. Like if I was to, make you think about that, you just pick any game of yours. Could be a favorite, could be a recent one.
Well, I mean, a game, I guess, that both of us have played, and you've mentioned it in the past few episodes, purely because you're talking about amount of hours sunk into a game. A game like Baldur's Gate 3, again, I know I've already sunk well over 100 hours into that game, and I can assume that you did the same.
Yeah.
Did you ever end up paying, or were you able to? Yeah,
so I've borrowed your copy of Baldur's Gate 3. So not only is it your 100 hours, I've got about 80 hours in.
Yeah.
So for, it's like 180 hours worth of playtime for what? How much did it cost you?
Oh, I think when that launched, again, that was only digital.
Yeah.
I think I did sink 100 to 120.
Yeah.
I waited about a year too because I'm like, this game is going to go down eventually, and it didn't. And I was like, I'm just so desperate to play it.
Yeah.
So I bought it.
Yeah. But even then, it's where we're talking close to 200 hours and you paid $120. It's still, we're talking cents per hour, less than $1 per hour. So how can you think that a game is bad value or it's like, oh, it's so expensive? When you think about that time you put in, it is not at all.
Yeah.
I mean, think about all the paid other things we do for entertainment, like I said, escape rooms, I don't know, playing golf or going to concerts, sports events, even board games.
Yeah, board games is a great example, especially if you are older and you have a board game that's 4 players.
Yep.
You're probably not going to get to play it as frequently as something like a video game because you need to have people physically come over.
Yes.
So the amount of money that you've spent on that board game to get that money or value for money back, it's more of a time sink.
That's it. So that's where I just wanted to kind of really hammer that home because in terms of that cost per hour, games smash it.
Oh,
they
dude,
are.
I just thought of one. Concerts.
Oh my God, how much you'd spend?
It's insane now. Some front row experiences are $1,000.
Yep.
And you're there for 4 or 5 hours max.
Yep.
Crazy.
Crazy.
Sorry, I interrupted
No,
you.
not at all. But it is crazy. That's the thing. And we're not saying, and that's not a bad experience. It's an awesome experience in my memory forever. But it's in terms of cost per hour, it's so high.
Yeah.
So high. And that's where games still remain for me. They are absolutely extraordinarily good value. And so I just wanted to hammer that home before we then unpack it and be like,
because
it is more.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, with that being said, and I agree with you, value doesn't always equate to hours spent.
Yes.
Because there are games like Journey, Firewatch, A Short Hike. They're just some that come to mind that are all kind of within that 4 to 8 hour range.
Yeah.
Yet I would happily recommend them to people being like, yes, the cost per hour is higher, but you're still getting great value because you might be moved by the story, or it causes you to reflect on an aspect of your life or yourself as a person, whatever it might be.
Yeah, yeah. And it's cool. I mean, this is not rocket science, but the research behind enjoyment when it comes to hobbies and using things in your spare time suggests that satisfaction, it hinges on three things mainly. Autonomy, like you're in charge of your experience. Mastery, you feel like you're enjoying it, you're in control. But then engagement rather than sheer duration.
Yeah.
And so that, I think, really backs up our kind of enjoyment of our hobby comes from the engagement. Like I said, that could be a 4-hour, really short game, or it could be a long game. It doesn't necessarily mean, it has to be a ridiculously long, game that you're playing.
100%. And that's where things get a little bit dicey online, because a lot of people do say, for the price that I'm spending, I want my game to be huge. But then there are other people also being like, man, this game is so bloated and just filled with unnecessary fetch quests.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really fine line to walk.
Yeah. But that's even then, like, that's where I think if you have a bit of an eye on this kind of, cost per hour and valuing it, it's not that bad. Like you were talking about, like, man, I play $8 just for like one night with my friends.
Totally.
It's like, yeah, I would pay $100 for something if I got 5 hours of really high quality stuff out of it. Because again, it's like $20 an hour. I'm equating that to, buying, me and my partner movie tickets to see a 2-hour film.
Yeah, but I think
absolutely worth it.
I think there's a line where that shifts.
Yeah.
Right? Because you've given those examples and I'm completely on board and agree. But while I don't want bloated games, I would have been upset if I spent $130 for a game like Stray.
Yes.
And it was only 10 hours long. And I loved Stray. I had a great time with it. But if I had have spent that much money, I would have been really, really frustrated. And I think that's why there was so much backlash. I don't know if you ever played it, but The Order 1886.
Yeah, I never played it, but I know about the backlash.
So many people haven't played it because it came out at a AAA game price for a 7-hour game. And people ragged on it. And now in the patient gamers subreddits, you see people being like, this game was amazing, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, dude, because you got it for like $15.
Yeah.
But at the time, people were really, really upset.
Yeah.
And I think that's it. There's a line, and I don't know what that line is. And it's probably different for other people. But yeah, there is a line where it kind of shifts. And that, again, is where I think GTA 6 serves as that dangerous precedent for the pricing of new game releases, because GTA 6 is going to be stacked. It's going to be a really long game. But other developers might go, sweet, we can get away with charging this much too.
Exactly.
And then they might get the backlash when it's like, whoa, you just charged us $130 for a 10-hour game.
Yep.
A lot of people might come in swinging for that.
Exactly. It's when the price kind of increases without any addition in the value that we're going to get out of it. So, yeah, that's interesting. But there is kind of a caveat, I think, that is worth talking about. Like, we're sitting here saying, gaming is such good value, but there is a hidden cost, I think, to gaming. And I think we're talking about it when it's good value, when it's the hobby that we are already in.
Yes.
It is already our hobby and we're already doing it, and we're talking about buying a new game, and that can be really good value. But starting out, maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, you got to buy the console, you got to buy the controllers. Maybe if you want to play online with friends, you got to get decent headphones or a headset with a microphone.
Yep.
All of that is a huge time sink. If you want to build a really high-running PC,
that's it.
That's the most expensive.
Yes.
Like, people who are building their own PCs for gaming, that is even overwhelming to me.
Yeah. And that's why I think it's cool when you mention like a really small game that's really cheap, is like, that's a good, like you said, the barrier to entry is low. That is really nice. So that's where I think mobile gaming actually, plays a good role, because, the barrier to entry, can be low if you can stay away from the loot boxes and everything else like that. But yeah, it's interesting because I think that sort of digital divide shows that the hardware costs, they can be a barrier, I think, to participation. I think, COVID and like shortages with PlayStation 5 and the price of the console going up kind of highlighted that as well, right?
There was a global shortage of like GPUs or graphic processing units and memory chips. So much tech has become so much more expensive since COVID because there was a global shortage.
Yeah.
And then you add on top of that, there was already a scarcity, throw scalpers into the mix.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a nightmare. And that's why so many people, even though most console generations are 5 to 6 years long, the PS5's been out for 5 or so years now.
Yeah,
for
ages.
6 years. I think it came out 2020.
Yep.
And people are like, I feel like this generation has only just started.
Yeah.
Because for a lot of people, they couldn't financially invest in the PS5 for 3 or so years.
That's it. I mean, I was one of those people. I was like, oh, I thought I was being all clever. I was like, oh, I'll just wait till the PlayStation 5 price drops. Oh, never really did.
And that's it. Well, not only that, it's increased. The PS5 costs more now than it did on launch, which is crazy. Like, you would never see that with any other console 5 years after its release.
Yeah. And then, because as well, I think that links to how that cost has risen, but what's also risen is the cost of living.
Totally.
Right? And the reality is that, sure, gaming might be really good value, but we're always going to compare, the prices of new games and gaming. We're going to compare that and balance that with other cost of living things. We might sit here and say, oh, $130 is pretty good value for a game. But then if you're weighing that up with, oh, my food grocery shop for the week costs $130, and, things are pretty tight, it becomes a very different value equation, doesn't it?
Exactly. I got to feed my kids rather than I'm going to save Hyrule, like whatever it might be.
Hyrule's way more important. You obviously do that.
Bring the kids with you.
This is why I'm not ready to be a parent, but you are. But and I think that's the reality, is that is always going to be there, and we're always going to do it. And as that rises, we're always going to look at something as like a one-off purchase, and it's harder to kind of bring that valuation into it.
Totally. And one thing that I think is hard as well, which international listeners may not understand as much as us.
Yes.
For us Aussies, we have historically always paid more for games. Like, there's like an Australian tax when it comes to games.
Yeah, it's like this unofficial kind of Aussie tax. And it was kind of from, I think it was sort of 2017, I think it was mid-2017, overseas businesses selling digital products in Australia were required to charge GST.
Yeah.
So it just got more expensive from 2017 onwards. So that was just a big part. So we've always paid just that little bit more for games as well.
But even then, when you look at the, like, online, I see people communicating on social media, Reddit, whatever, talking about this game is launching at this price in America or this price in the UK.
Oh, yeah.
I look at that and I go, okay, even accounting for GST, that is a huge discrepancy in price. Like, I feel like they're just jacking it up because they can. Yeah,
exactly. And that's where I always loved the role that places like, your EB Games, JB Hi-Fi played, where they were maybe able to, they would sell the physical copies and they were maybe able to undercut the price a little bit, make it a bit cheaper to incentivize you to come in and like go to their store and shop at their store. The trade and save options, I think that was like a great way, for us to try and find a way to make it a little bit more affordable.
And I think that's why as well, this fear of losing the physical market when Sony introduces a digital-only future in 2018 is extra daunting for us as Australians. And I know that there are other countries around the world that don't even have digital servers. So it's like, what even happens for them? But for us, as you said, the physical market was so important because the physical retailers might do that slight price undercutting, or trade in some previous games and you'll get it even cheaper, or you can trade it with a friend. So many Aussies still wait for sales because digital prices often remain higher and the physical prices drop quickly. Like, there are still games on the digital storefronts that are charging $40 more than what you can buy that for at a JB Hi-Fi. Which is insane. Like, why would you even consider buying it digitally?
That's it.
When you can buy it physically.
Yeah, you've got those options there. Yeah. Do you actually, I thought I gave such a nice kind of memory of a trade and save moment. Do you have any kind of really fun, or even secondhand, or something you borrowed or you picked up secondhand at a low price, or you probably weren't much of a trade and save. You were probably like, I want to keep every single game I've got.
I'm a big old hoarder, man. I don't think I've ever traded in a single game.
Yeah, that's actually cool. I rate that.
My brother definitely traded in his games to get slightly cheaper ones.
Yeah.
But I never traded in a single game. Just, again, we've spoken so many times in previous episodes about how I form emotional attachments to literally everything.
Yeah.
I couldn't part with the game unless it was a game I got and I really didn't enjoy.
Yeah.
But that's pretty rare for me.
Yeah.
And usually there's someone else who I could lend it to or that might want to buy it off me. But I cannot think of a single game I ever traded in so that I could buy another game cheaper.
That's actually really cool. And that's nice. And that's where I remember there's been a couple of games I have traded in. I remember once, I think one of the Star Wars Lego games, I think we traded in.
Yeah.
And then I remember I just really wanted to play it once. And I was like, oh, I traded it. And so then I borrowed it from like Blockbuster. so I could play it again. I spent like $7 borrowing it. And I was like, well, I probably shouldn't have traded it in.
Nah, it makes it tricky, and it's hard because you're never going to know.
Yeah.
And for me, I've always had that mentality of, oh, but what if I want to play it one day? Or what if I want to introduce my kids to it?
Yes.
And, as millennials, when we were kids, we were promised a very idealized future.
Yeah.
You go to school, you go to university, you get a job. Eventually, you'll be able to buy a house and you'll live happily ever after.
Yeah.
Similar to what our parents were able to do. A lot of boomer families lived and supported families on one income.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. They bought their houses. Some of them now have multiple properties, whatever.
Yep.
And I'm still here at 36 renting, being like, I have no idea when I'm going to be able to buy a house. And so for me, I had this idea, I would love to have a house one day and have like a home cinema / gaming room.
The dream.
And have like a bookshelf. There's like these IKEA shelves that are kind of instead of being rectangular, they've got kind of square shelving units. And within each one I would have I'd have the SNES, I'd have the 64, I'd have the Wii and the GameCube and all the different consoles, and then I'd have the games in drawers or something else, but it would be like a pick your poison. What do you want to play?
Cool.
These are all the games that I have.
Man.
That was the mentality that I had, and it's still like my inner child wants that.
Yes.
Even though I just know that it's so incredibly unlikely.
Yeah.
But yeah, that little millennial child has not let go of that dream.
Yeah. That's beautiful. That's such a cool kind of, way to think about the games you've collected over the years as well, as a way to, show what you've done, have them there, introduce them to others. And that's such a good point about being able to keep those things. I mean, I remember when we played Witcher 2 together, that was using the Xbox and the copy of a friend of mine who had lent me his old Xbox and his copy of the game for me to play.
Yeah.
And then I had played it and I was like, hey, can I borrow this to play it and introduce it to a friend? And he was like, hell yeah. So, and that's, such a kind of cool, way to kind of pass on and introduce things you've collected.
That's it. And if it was digital, maybe we never would have had that experience.
That's it. So that's probably a good time to talk about the shift. The shift and think, well, we're talking about value, but what are we actually buying now? And what are we going to be buying when it comes to games?
Yeah, how does that shift our perception of value? Does value only matter if you own what you bought? And yeah, it's so tricky. Like we've already talked about it, Sony changing to digital only in 2028. A lot of people are unhappy about that, us included, if you haven't gotten on by now, which, we can unpack a little bit more. But I think it's important to identify that this shift obviously has been coming for a long time.
Yeah, and it's good for us to acknowledge it. Like, obviously, we don't love it, we're going to talk about that more. But, it has been coming. And I know that a lot of the dialogue online is like, we've all been a bit blindsided. But I think if you kind of read the room and, looked at the lay of the land, you could kind of see this trend towards digital age coming.
Oh, I mean, even look at the PS5. They sold the disc version and the digital only version.
Yeah.
And then I'm pretty sure the PS5 Pro is purely digital.
Yeah.
And you can buy an external disc drive.
Yeah.
So that was the canary in the coal mine. I'm sure there were canaries prior to that, but that was a big one. The canaries were letting off their foghorns.
Why are these canaries so loud?
You weren't listening. We had to get louder.
But yeah, I mean, the trend has been happening and also it has been reflected in the consumer base. So there's this really cool kind of market research company called Newzoo, like Neuzoo. If you've never heard of them before, go look it up. They do these really cool in-depth like market research breakdown of trends in gaming. So you can just go online and look at it. It's kind of really cool information. You can see really cool insights like they predict that the player base, people who play games, is going to hit 4 billion by 2028.
Crazy.
And that's all games, right? That's, PC, console, mobile, everything. Other cool facts like console is actually leading growth, which is really interesting. It's about 5.5% per year in growth in console gaming, and PC is staying pretty steady. So is mobile gaming, but mobile gaming is randomly growing a bit more in the Asia Pacific. So yeah, interesting things like that. But the key thing that, that I've come across for our purposes is that the overwhelming majority of PC game purchases now are already digital, and the substantial majority of console purchases are also digital. So, it has been coming and we have been trending towards that. So I think it's just interesting to caveat that, a lot of people are frustrated about the news, us included, but, we probably also, these people are frustrated, probably most of them buy digital games.
Oh, and don't get me wrong, I buy a lot of digital games. As I've said in the past, indie games generally, those production teams don't have the money to manufacture millions of discs to send out over the world. So vast majority of smaller development teams launch their games digital only.
Yep.
I mean, even Baldur's Gate 3 was digital only.
Yeah.
And so I do buy a lot of games digitally. I do also still love buying physical games.
Yes.
I think the reason why I'm upset and why so many other people are upset is the idea and the option of ownership.
Yes.
Because it does look very different.
Yeah.
And yes, as you said, a lot of people on Steam and other PC games, they're pretty much all digital. But there's GOG as there's competing marketplaces, right? So
that's it.
That's a big thing.
Yep.
You've got Steam, you've got GOG, you've got a whole variety of other ones that aren't coming to me off the top of my head. But GOG in particular, you own those games.
Yes.
Now, Steam, you don't. You own the license, similar to what happens when you buy a game on Xbox or PlayStation digitally. You don't own that game. You own the license, and they can take that game away from you anytime they want.
Yes.
So owning a physical disc, you've got that game. You can boot it up. You can play it.
Yeah.
But that's where for PC, I think having those competitive marketplaces is going to keep pricing fair.
Yeah.
Whereas when you go purely to PlayStation, they are going to have the lay of the land. There's no competition on their storefront.
Yeah.
So they can charge whatever they want. And people are like, oh, that's fine. I'll just wait for a sale. Who says they're going to put things on sale? They don't have to.
That's the thing. And there was also that news coming out that they're going to be trialing this dynamic pricing.
Yeah. Sketchy.
Which is really sketchy, which basically means that the pricing will be tailored to different individuals just depending on what you use. So, maybe you're going to wait for that sale, but maybe they know that and they're just going to keep the price high for you so you can't go and buy it at the cheaper price that someone else buys it at. And and like you say, what's to stop them doing that when, there's no options out there? You don't have these stores that can now offer you this secondary option to go and buy it.
Yeah.
Right? So, I think that is a big kind of potential concern, I think, which, does... I think that does make my kind of definition of value change because, again, the autonomy side of it, I don't really feel like I've got control of that value equation. If I'm like, well, if I'm completely locked into this when there's absolutely no other option and it's more than what I'd like to pay, I think it dampens that a bit.
And I think if laws were put in place, this would be very different. As you said, right now we're paying for digital licenses. We don't actually own these games unless you are on specific storefronts like GOG on PC that allow you to own that license.
Yep.
There needs to be some kind of laws put in place to protect us, not just for video games, but to protect us as consumers in a digital age.
Yes.
So that the music that you buy, the movies that you buy on iTunes or digital storefronts, that still belongs to you.
Yes.
And I think that's where we are behind as a society because all of these things are blasting ahead of us. AI is going crazy. That's its own unique thing. But we're not able to keep up with that. And I think laws need to be put in place for us as consumers to protect us and the things that we are, quotation marks, purchasing.
Yes. And it can be done. I mean, I did read a little while ago that in California, I think it started from the 1st of January in 2025. They'd passed a law which was saying that digital storefronts for games, this is specifically for games, had to specify on the product. They had to very, very specifically specify whether it was you were buying this, you own it, or it's just a digital license. So that's at least a small step.
Transparency.
Just that, correct. That transparency to say at least you know what you're buying, right? Because, I mean, for example, when I bought The Third Age, imagine if I then booted it up now to play it and I couldn't play it. I no longer owned it. Like, there's no way I would have known at the time.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't have thought like that. I didn't have that kind of like knowledge and there was no transparency around it. That would be devastating.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And that will happen to people.
Yeah.
There's people who are going to get caught by that.
Absolutely, they will. So licensing is obviously a huge part of why people are upset. I think another reason is it kills the secondary market as well. We've already spent tons of time talking about how much joy we've gotten from trading things, swapping things, trading things in.
Yeah. Imagine if you bought the like the Shadow of the Gods, Hunger of the Gods, the book trilogy that you've bought and lent to me. Imagine if you bought that, but then it's like, oh no, you can't give that to someone else to read. Ridiculous.
Yeah, crazy.
Like that as a concept is crazy. So the fact, I think if I buy a game and I can't then lend it to you, that is strange to me. It doesn't sit right.
Yeah, and in the digital world, is that ever even going to be possible? Is it locked to your console only or your PC only? Or maybe if laws get put in place again, maybe there is a way in the future for us to share digital licenses or digital codes or whatever it might be, to be like, hey, I know you're considering getting this game. I'm just going to lend it to you or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have no idea how that would work, but I think that would be cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's also the emotional side of ownership as well, right? That we've kind of touched on.
Yeah. I mean, we've already talked about me owning all of my childhood games still. It's because there's such a deep emotional connection to them.
Yep.
That's a huge thing. And I guarantee that there are people listening to this podcast that have a ton of games that they will never sell.
Yep.
And it's not because they're financially valuable or they're waiting for that game to go up and then they're going to sell it for $1 million. It's emotionally valuable to them.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, again, apart from the ones I traded away in the trade and save, I've never gotten rid of, thrown out, sold anything else in an old game. I've still got them all. The PS1 games, I still have them literally on display.
Yeah.
Yeah, under my TV. You can see every single game that I've gotten played, and it's kind of like a story.
Yeah, they mean something to you.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? And then, if 2 games then cost $100, but one is owned, it can be resold, it can be shared, it can be passed on, but the other can't. The other's just a digital license that, you can only play for a certain amount of time and might get revoked in the future. Are they actually worth the same amount, do you think? Are they the same value?
No, I mean, to me, definitely not. And it begs the question, can you truly own a digital game? Because right now, no, I don't think you can.
Yeah.
And as we said, I feel like laws need to be changed to ensure true digital ownership.
Yeah.
And we've talked about price and time and entertainment. I guess that's another thing. Should ownership be part of that value equation?
Yeah. I think it should be, because they're definitely, like, those two valuations are different, like those two examples I gave before. Now, I could view it as just hours played and hours spent. And then, yes, if I paid $100 for that digital-only game, I absolutely loved it, and I had a brilliant, whatever, let's just say 20 hours out of it, and then I can never play it again if it got revoked from me. I think I could still see that as good value, but there is no question that it is a different. It's not as good a value.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it, right? You go out to a fancy restaurant and you pay $50-something for a really nice steak.
Yeah.
All up at the end of the night, you've paid over $100. That was one night's experience. And you would say, yeah, that was really good value. I had a great time with my friends. We shared great conversation, drank some lovely wine or whiskey or beers or whatever your drink of choice is. Maybe it's just a lemon, lime and bitters, darling.
I love a lemon, lime and bitters.
Oh, mate, me too. Such an underrated drink.
Oh, so good.
You know, people in other countries don't know about lemon, lime and bitters.
I actually didn't know that.
It's a very Australian thing.
Wow, really?
Yeah, you go to certain countries and you go lemon, lime and bitters, and they're like, what? And they just give you like a lemonade and put like a lime wedge or something in it.
Just I've never tried that.
Yeah, it's a real thing. There are a lot of countries now that are cottoning on, but there are still countries around the world. It's very Aussie.
Well, we may have had to pay more for our video games, James, but that's been offset by having lemon lime bitters.
That's it. If the rest of the world are missing out. Yeah. That's the real value for money. Turn this podcast off right now. Let's grab a lemon lime and bitters.
Oh, but yeah. No, it's cool though. It's interesting because I think that's where games are, unique in that form of entertainment, and probably speaks to why they're so good. It's part of it is because of that ownership, because renting has become so normalized for us in terms of entertainment, like subscription services, Netflix, everything like that. Like, you don't own any of the stuff on there.
Man, even Microsoft Office now. Adobe products, all of that stuff is subscription based.
Yes.
Games aren't unique to that.
Yeah. So I think like that's what's so interesting. And, where games are maybe sat a bit differently is that, well, no, we can buy it and we can own it. So it is a little bit different in terms of entertainment.
Yeah, I guess the more daunting question for that one for people to consider is, are we becoming more comfortable owning nothing with how popular renting is becoming?
I think so. I think it's just, it's almost like kind of like the slow thing that's creeping up the walls. You just don't notice. But yeah, it's every little thing out there that exists in a subscription base or a renting base. It just makes it more normalized, and it makes you more comfortable, with it without you realizing it.
Yeah, and I think game preservation is obviously a part of this as well. I feel like that could be its own episode in and of itself.
I think so, yeah.
But I think when it comes to gaming, value isn't objective at the end of the day.
No.
Like, one person's value might be 1,000 hours in Minecraft. For someone else, it's owning the physical box. For us, that's incredibly important.
Yep.
It could be sharing a gaming experience with their kids, or for someone else, that value comes from preserving a facet of gaming history, like those people that I very quickly kind of mentioned about game preservation.
Yeah. And that's it, is that I think it's important to think about for everyone, because that transition to digital, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I think whether we like it or not, I think, we can make noise, and maybe that can change a few things, but I think it's happening, and I think it's been in the works for a while. And so that is a reality that we're going to have to get used to. So we now have to decide for ourselves what we want to do and take the time to really think about, what represents good value when it comes to games.
And this is where we turn things back on everyone else. For this week's side quest. It's actually a 2-pronged side quest. So you can pick your quest.
Yep.
Do you want to go down this path? Do you want to go down that path?
Yep.
Are you a completionist? Do you do one, circle back, and do the other?
We're going to have to start sending out trophies for people who do both side quests. Yeah.
You did both side quests? Platinum.
Yeah, everyone's gonna be emailing in like, where's my platinum, man? Like, come on.
So first challenge, do you want to kick everyone off with?
Yeah. So the first one is, I want you to choose 2 games.
Yeah.
So pick 2. The first one is your all-time favorite, and the second one is your recent favorite. And I want you to figure out your cost per hour played value ratio. So even just sitting down and thinking, this is how much time I spent in this game, and this is how much I enjoyed it. Just by doing that, that will help prime you to think and remember and appreciate how good value games are. So the next time you go to buy a game, you don't just look at the price and you think, oh, $120, that's way too expensive. Instead, you might think, okay, how many hours do I predict that I will play this? So what is the cost per hour maybe going to be? And then maybe compare that with something else, another purchase you're going to make, and then think, actually, look, maybe this is a worthwhile buy. Kind of like what you were doing with First Light was a great example, as you've thought, look, what's the risk that I'm willing to take? And therefore the price needs to drop a bit because I think it's maybe there's a little bit more risk and I maybe might not enjoy it. That's kind of what I want you to do to really think about that value. So that's part 1.
Part 1.
Yeah.
Part 2 of the side quest, or the alternative side quest / the second one that you do if you're a completionist, whatever, is to think about digital and physical. If you're big mad like us, why? Are you really happy about it? Are you big glad? Are you stoked? And
maybe you are.
Or maybe you just don't care. Maybe you don't give a shit at all. And you're like, it's not that deep, man.
Yep.
It is. It is that deep. Think about it. Where do you sit on that fence and why? Because I think that's going to highlight what do games actually mean to you as a person.
Yeah.
And if the value is more than just entertainment, is it instead something far more complicated with ties to ownership or whatever it might be? I think that's a really important thing to become aware of. Like, if you aren't happy, put your money where your mouth is.
Yes.
Buy physical games, go into stores, support the secondhand markets, because at the end of the day, money talks.
100%.
All these companies can virtue signal all they want, but all they truly care about at the end of the day is their bottom line. If you prefer digital, maybe keep an eye out for transparency. As you said, there was that law in California that had to say, this is a licensed game. You do not own this. Making sure that the games that you are buying or the companies that you are buying from are honest and that they're being transparent about what it is that you're actually spending your money on.
100%.
And most importantly, even if you are comfortable with a completely digital future, respect people's right to be upset.
Yeah, that's it.
Because the internet is an incredibly toxic place.
Yes.
And I've seen a lot of discourse where people are just throwing insults at each other. And it's like, can't you just respect each other's opinion? You just want to buy digital? Awesome. You are really upset about physical? So valid.
Yeah.
Hold space for everyone.
Exactly. It's everyone's hobby. This is a beautiful, beautiful hobby. And we're talking about how good value the hobby is. But yeah, that value is important to everyone and it can be completely different. You can play games entirely different to someone else. No one is right. There's no right or wrong. It's just different.
I'm with you. At the end of the day, we've talked about how important value is. A lot of the time, it's not just hours divided by dollars. It's that blend of hours, but also the memories spent, the time spent with family, preserving that game, having it on your shelf to share with friends or family.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, nothing is worth spending money on if it's not good value.
That's it. So, yeah, there's one thing you're going to leave with this episode. It's just, remember the incredible value of this hobby and why you love it so much.
Hell yeah. I love it. Beautiful way to wrap up.
Indeed.
We will catch you all again next week. Jump on the socials at Law and Order Podcast. I'm not going to say at hotmail.com. I don't know why. As soon as I say something, I just want to run it like an email.
Paradise at
Paradise, baby. At Law and Order Podcast on Instagram and TikTok. Thanks as always. We'll catch you guys again next week.
See you later.